Now, very first story, Attorney General Gloria Kufu has admitted it may be difficult for government to avoid paying judgment debts. Ms. Kufu earlier on Tuesday told Parliament's Public Accounts Committee it is often difficult for the state to meet its financial commitment to service providers due to inadequate resources, a situation which leads to judgment debts when service providers take legal action against government. Payment of judgment debts was a big issue prior to the 2016 election, with the current government criticizing the Mahama-led administration for what they described as their failure to protect the public purse. One of the payments the AG was queried about by the committee on Tuesday had to do with the 67 million cedis judgment debt paid construction pioneers by the previous administration. There is more in the following report.
The 67 million cedis was paid construction pioneers in the year 2015 following an arbitration decision. The Auditor General's report notes the payment was effected without the approval of Cabinet. Attorney General Gloria Kufu, however, told the committee evidence of the approval was available.
But I have a decision note, a Cabinet decision note dated 29 July 2013, giving authorization for the payment, the equivalent of 18,455,303 pounds sterling 94 pence. So approval was given. Again, the money arose out of an international arbitration at the ICC between construction pioneers and the government of Ghana.
The committee, however, wanted some assurance on how the AG's department could minimize such payments. The AG, however, said this may be difficult.
Mr. Chair, in our kind of business, these are normal occurrences. The arbitration was about work that construction pioneers had done for the country. The country was resisting payment because the amounts involved were being challenged. Part of these debts arise because we delay in payment. When they arise, now, we immediately bring it to the attention of the Ministry of Finance. I think that sometimes it is because of our thin purse.
Deputy Roads Minister Anthony Kabo was quizzed by the committee on some abandoned road projects that the Auditor General recommended be abrogated.
Those particular projects have been terminated, and we have with us the copies of the termination for those projects. But if you look at the 6 projects, 2 of those projects are currently, those have been repackaged and work is going on in respect of those 2 projects.
The committee has meanwhile served notice it won't hesitate to drag before its civil servants who are responsible for infractions.
The coalition of civil society groups in Ghana have backed calls for investigations into activities of a militia group linked to the governing New Patriotic Party, the DI Group. The group was found to have been operating from the Christiansborg Castle in the Joy News documentary, Militia in the Heart of the Nation. It's been 5 days since the documentary was broadcast, and there have been calls from Parliament, security experts, academia, and some Ghanaians for thorough investigations into the activities of the group. Speaking at a news conference on Tuesday, chairman of the Civic Forum Initiative, Major General Carl Coleman, retired, said investigating the matter will help in efforts to disband the party militias.
As civil society organizations concerned with the stability, peace, and security of the nation, it became necessary for us to meet and discuss the situation. Yes, civil society stands for impartiality, right? If there is something wrong with our society, it is our duty to speak out. If multimedia has brought to our attention, that is the nation's attention, that there are ills in the society, and that requires investigation, it must be investigated. We fully support any investigation or any call for investigation from whatever quarter it comes.
Meanwhile, the Civic Forum Initiative is warning that talks aimed at disbanding party militias will fail unless the process is expanded and facilitators brought in. Reading a joint statement on behalf of the civil society group's executive director of the ACT Foundation, Angela Dramnabwaje, said the lack of trust between the two major parties makes the call for only the two parties to meet dead on arrival.
Past, mutual suspicion and mistrust between the two parties have led to the failure of political dialogues in Parliament during post-elections transitions and in the drafting and amendment of the Constitution. This has been the case in almost all national endeavors which have required the collaboration of the two parties for success. The historical evidence suggests that approaching the political dialogue bilaterally between the two parties is more likely to lead to failure. Yet, this political dialogue is so central to reforming and strengthening the security of the nation that it cannot and must not be allowed to fail. Consequently, a successful takeoff of the dialogue would require technical facilitation that could bring the two parties to bilateral talks as soon as possible. We believe that CSOs with competence, integrity, and proven track records could engage to support this process. We fully endorse the dialogue process as the way to deal with the mutual distrust, mistrust, and find an enduring and amicable solution to the recurring threat to Ghana's democracy, peace, and security.
Meanwhile, members of the coalition are urging the two parties to commit to the process to ensure the militia groups are disbanded in the interest of the country.
Call on the NPP and NDC to demonstrate good faith towards the dialogue by formally dissociating themselves from political vigilantes and recommitting themselves to fight against electoral violence, impunity, and injustice. We further call on the two parties to desist from publications of their correspondence with the President and among themselves in the media. This will go a long way in enhancing the environment needed to proceed with the dialogue.
Starting with a precondition, it means that you are taking an entrenched position, okay? And it would take a lot more time to climb down to a common ground. That is not what we want in this instance. We want to see the two parties demonstrating their love for country, you know, by saying that, okay, we recognize the problem, we think that it needs to be solved, and we are prepared to sit around the table and with an open mind, dispassionately, sincerely, see how we can resolve.
Now, tonight, the campaign to disband party militias has intensified, and of course, the children who are the future of this country, one of the most affected groups when violence erupts, are speaking up. They're simply urging the politicians to preserve their future. With the hashtag disband party militias now.
Ghana is the only country we have.
I am a child and I have a stake
in the peace of this country.
Mr. Politician,
Ghana deserves better.
Your children deserve better.
The political violence must stop.
The party militias must be disbanded.
We are the future.
We plead with you to preserve that future.
Disband party party militias now.
Disband party militias now.
Disband party militias now.
Disband party militias now.
Indeed, disband party militias now. Moving on, the majority in Parliament has served notice they will use their numbers to push through government's request for 2 billion cedi sovereign guarantee for the Ghana Amalgamated Trust. The request, which is before Parliament Finance Committee for approval, is expected to be considered on Wednesday. The guarantee will allow for GAT to borrow the amount from pension schemes to recapitalize 5 banks. The minority say they will resist the request.
Few issues that need to be clarified, and the committee is still working on that. I think the committee is demanding a number of documentation. First of all, the GAT is alien to Parliament. We don't know what is GAT. Okay? Ghana Consolidated Trust Limited. Amalgamated Trust Limited. Is it a company established by who? Parliament knows nothing about that. So why do you introduce a company that is alien to Parliament for Parliament to work for us to give a guarantee, a sovereign guarantee for that company to go and borrow? So that's the first legal thing need to be clarified, is that what is that company?
Have they brought it in?
No, they haven't. They haven't brought it. So those are some of the requirements of the minority. Before government can do anything of that nature, it must be approved by Parliament. Parliament, nothing has come to Parliament for approval.
For the GATT arrangement to be approved by
Parliament, yes, by Parliament. You know, when they went for the bond for the ESLA, the venture, the vehicle that they used to raise funds, special purpose vehicle they used to raise funds for the energy sector, it was based on the energy sector levy that will pass by Parliament. So we have source of funding. So if they use that as a legal basis to go and raise bond or loan, that is acceptable. Here, we have not established or given the authority to government to establish any company for Ghana. And why do you come to Parliament asking Parliament to give you approval for that company, which Parliament has not given any approval to go and establish, to give guarantee to that company to go and borrow money?
So for you, that is an illegal entity that you wouldn't
support.
We
That thing should be done. We cannot, Parliament cannot give approval for a company that we don't know anything about to go and borrow.
But the NPP majority MP on the Finance Committee, Anthony Efa, insists the deal is a good one.
It can be illegal because we called over the weekend, we called for certificates of incorporation and commencement of business. And all these were provided to the committee over the weekend. So why is the illegality? If the company GAT is not registered, then we say that how can we lend to a company that, an institution that is not registered?
Shouldn't the very idea of its establishment have come to Parliament for approval?
I don't know about the law on that, but as long as it's now before the House, we have the opportunity to ask all the relevant questions to ensure that it works. Doesn't mean if one condition is not satisfied at this moment in time, then everything should be thrown away. I think we should give opportunity. Do you possibly
admit that that condition?
I'm not sure of what condition. I do not know. Like I'm saying, I cannot, at the spur of the moment, indicate that. But the minimum requirement is for GAT to register as a legal entity, and we have that demonstrated to us over the weekend. The certificate of incorporation, the certificate to commence business, they were all shown to us, and they are available for anybody to check.
And so for you are satisfied, and they deserve and should be given the
Yes, from the beginning, I indicated that this is one solution, but it may not be foolproof. So it is for us as Ghanaians, and especially members of Parliament, to suggest what else will make GAT work for these banks that otherwise will go down, for not because of improper management, but because they haven't made the minimum capital.
The national leadership of the University Teachers Association of Ghana is demanding the reinstatement of dismissed lecturers at the University of Education, Winneba. The demand by UTAG follows the dismissal of lecturers from the university and about 30 teaching and unteaching staff. The UTAG executives say the dismissal of the lecturers is unfair and does not augur well for smooth academic activities. Students of the university have been protesting the dismissal of the lecturers. Richard Kojanyako has been on that campus and brings us what's happening there.
What exactly do you want done? So obviously, they are all talking and I cannot hear them. But all that they are saying is that they want their lecturers back. And they want the removal of the Vice Chancellor. They suspect that there are some unfair treatment on campus.
These students of the Hypers department, yesterday we were there and we heard that for immediate past HOD, who is currently one of the best lecturers. As you can see, they couldn't even give me the chance to grant you this thing because he's the lecturer that we say to be the best lecturer in the department. He is the one who has the sociology, he's the one who teaches the soccer, first aid, and a lot of courses that we don't see any lecturer in this our department taking us through.
We had a call from our Dr. Jinapo that he is also sacked. That he was at the lecture hall teaching the level 400 face-to-face. He had a face-to-face with them, and he had a text message that he is sacked. So we want him back. He didn't do anything. So we want him back. He is the only lecturer in our department. We students want him back because he was there in our HOD. When this man came on power, they stepped him down and brought another HOD. So we don't want our HOD. They should change our HOD and bring back our Jinapo. There's an intimidation affecting us. Lots of intimidation affecting us.
The time that they have sacked the man is not good. Not the time, because if you check, we are now on 6th week of the whole semester. That means that we have some few days for semester quizzes. You see, so this one is going to affect the whole university, not only Hypers alone. So we are fighting. We are fighting to all the authorities that they should bring the man back. We need him. If not, something else will happen. There are issues of ultimate importance in this university. Sacking a lecturer is not important. There are issues that are very important in this university. This whole university, there's only a quarter of us that have been accommodated on campus. There is no SH president. There are issues that are impending. The security on campus is very poor. I'm telling you. This semester, this academic year, there is no SH president. There is no executive because the elections were boycotted by court. Cut all the way. See, we don't know what is happening. The thing is, communication to the students are very poor. We don't know what is happening in this university. So our worry now is, why then are you facing the lecturers when students are rather suffering? The students here are suffering. We are suffering. My brother, you can't sack a lecturer in the middle of a semester. A lecturer lecturing people about 6 courses. You sack them in the middle of a semester. What do you want the students to do? Now, the UTAG executives are not really happy with the dismissal of the lecturers as well. UTAG President Eric Opoku says they are going to do everything they can to bring back these lecturers because there are some precedents, including a court case that was just determined by the Cape Coast High Court.
Set aside the judgment, the earlier judgment by Winneba High Court, asking these executive members to step aside. Once they did that, we as National UTAG waited patiently and got a copy of the judgment on the 25th of February 2019. So upon receipt of the legitimate document, we wrote formally to this university, to the management of the university, requesting that they give due recognition to these elected executives as a result of the outcome of the appeal case. We also wrote to the executive, Dr. Kechi Duku, that now that the court had duly cleared him, he can hold himself as the duly elected president of UEW, and that the National Executive Committee of UTAG duly recognized him as such. Just when we wrote that letter, then a day afterwards, an emergency meeting was held in this university. And the outcome of that meeting, Vice Chancellor signing a letter summarily dismissing him on a list of allegations that are unfounded. Look, we know what is going on. There is an attempt clearly to make sure that Dr. Kecheduku, one, doesn't hold himself as user executive because they know what he can do with his office and doesn't stay in this university as a lecturer. We as a national body doesn't recognize that decision that has been taken by the leadership of this university. Sure. And therefore, UTAC, together with other stakeholders, are going to do whatever is necessary to make sure that justice prevails in this university.
We've also been having an interaction with one of the dismissed lecturers, and he's been bemoaning the treatment that they are going through under the hands of this very Vice Chancellor.
There are several reasons for our dismissal. Each one is dependent on whatever the person did. In my case, they said I have gone to court to ask the court to review a decision by council that I believe it was not right. So that's the reason why I was dismissed. I have a colleague who was a former alumni president representing alumni on council. He went to council, they took a decision, or they were in the process of taking a decision which was not comfortable to him. So he said he wants to excuse himself because he doesn't want to be part of that decision making. And they consider that as also a sign of disrespect. And his appointment has been terminated. I have the professor from Ejumako campus, Professor Avia, who was the principal of Ejumako campus. His charge is that he's not been cooperating with the other management members because when they are doing something wrong and he doesn't want to side with them, that is his charge. Now the students believe that enough is enough. Within a year, almost 30 staff, teaching and non-teaching, have been sacked or demoted or suspended. They believe they are suffering because at the end of the day, having paid your school fees, if you are not receiving tuition, then what is the essence of hovering around on campus? So today, they have gone on peaceful demonstration to register their displeasure about this unwarranted dismissal of staff from the university. And their demand, simple, is that all dismissed individuals must be called back. None, so far, those that have seen their letters, none can be justifiably defended that the person did something wrong.
A 7-year-old girl who was allegedly knocked down by a motorbike 3 years ago at DLA in the then northern region has been left paralyzed with no hope of walking again. Zulaiha Fusaini had always dreamed to get an education, but all that has been snuffed out, and the mother is now only hoping for her to walk again. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin visited Zulaiha and her parents, now living at Ejura in the Ashanti region.
Zulaiha Fusaini smiles. Behind the smile, however, is a reality of two inactive legs as she lay slackly on the floor. Zulaiha can neither stand nor walk. She drags herself from one point to another to be able to play with other children. Take a look at this. Looking from this side of her body, she looks healthy and hearty. All is, however, not well for little Zulaiha. About 4 years ago, a motor rider ran into Zulaiha and her mother, Salah, at Diale near Sakasaka in Tamale. At age 3 then, Zulaiha fell from behind and the rider allegedly ran over her, as narrated by her mum.
I was from Diale, crossing the road to Sakasaka when a motor rider ran into us. My daughter fell from my back. The rider ran over her, and she eventually had head injury. She underwent surgery, and after recovering, she couldn't walk again.
Salah collapsed at the site of the accident. The culprit absconded and left the poor woman to foot the hospital bills all by herself.
I collapsed in the process and could not have identified the rider. He eventually absconded, and Zuleiha's uncle was taking care of her until the doctors needed 4,000 Ghana cedis for the surgery. He could not also afford and left her to her fate. I had to struggle to pay the bills. We sought treatment from one medical doctor to the other, but she couldn't walk. Doctors said the accident affected her veins.
The family has consulted one traditional doctor after the other for help without success. Salah has no clue what the future holds for her daughter. She is worried and wonders how to manage the situation when Zuleiha enters her puberty age and begins to menstruate.
I have really suffered, and I keep thinking about how her situation would look like when she reaches her puberty age and starts to menstruate. Even now, answering to nature's call has been a challenge for her.
There's one thing Zuleiha wants to tell her mom.
She always tells me if she could walk, she wouldn't have been in her current state, so I should get her a wheelchair. But I tell her to look up to God, because that could be her destiny.
Zuleiha's family hopes things will change for the better. For now, she'll have to endure this kind of situation. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reporting for Joy News.
The Narcotics Control Board says it has discovered abuse of substances beyond tramadol and other known drugs. Officials in the Ashanti region citing inhalation of glue, insecticide, and other chemicals as worrying trends. Prince Appiah has been investigating the new trend and our report.
Chemicals like petrol, insecticides, Tipex, or we call it correcting fluid, the flames coming out of pit latrines, and glue, yes, you know the scent of it is also very strong. People have started abusing them. Those are some of the new trends that we have started recording, which are very worrying.
That is the voice of the regional narco boss with such a revelation. So we decided to investigate and understand the extent of the situation. Here is one of the communities we are told are hideouts for youth who abuse some of these substances. I meet Kofi and Akwesi, both obvious testimonies of the weird abuse.
Super glue, yeah, this one bag way. And down where sachets and Ota and also a daisy. But I'm more this between India, between selection India. I am to be a manum sang as well.
So, what is his motivation?
Yeah, drivers meet in the Menoma. Media Jumapa as an Missia, ship passengers, no, one, Basana, white and then ship passengers, na Mako Junior, one, Mako Ju be back and in a bag, no other for Cano, as you meet in Goa and wire door, that you free to me.
So we find out how tedious his work is. For Kofi, however, his immunity to these challenges goes high when he is on glue.
Selection the Tony Amono Ubius Kakla, and the Opeso Tria abuse can say watching kumua di say while esia was akata so far na say what you want me ka kla na say on na rewura sa then no the nam do you see that was atwe
Akwesi's experience is different.
So I shine there. Otwa nanti ne bejao. Tizama mafo no ma motoso ne ma no mko achima no. Omna twetwem bi mi hu se una mawia no so kra onte se wie de ebo. Tene de unya twa sade ne kuta na so koton onfa ho ne awia. No so ku streets
It is obvious that the abuse of these substances are assuming worrying levels.
The solution is the intimate mount na faako eno beja anante baby unsusu beduru okra no obu se waduru ukoni pem susu a onfele obia ba tramo no de unyanom pe na mo akoe ni pe bi se why slow utna se aso na ubuku ma so chese wada no
se we nya bi na se otwa se na hona musie
I said the malaria children. That's how will be the devil.
I have come to this shop close to one of the communities where glue abuse is prevalent. The owner confirms demand for and patronage of glue has gone up in recent times.
Your sizes, your can say medium name, I get one now or Montatopa. I get one a day. At least best 7 and 10 days. You get to apply 4 cities, and I can say I got 6 cities. I have almost talk. So let's in the almost talk by minimum the almost talk some talk or channel, some talk.
Head of Herbal and Food Supplement at the Food and Drugs Authority, Emmanuel Yao Kwating, explains the authority has no mandate to regulate the use of such substances.
Glue no nya dia FDA ye kan say ye regulating and kan ye nema ho na mom ya nya te say e ha nipa adwen ni je ye betimi abo ho dawuru but say ye ntimi ye nhihye pin fa glue ho fi say enye nema FDA ye regulate.
Regional Deputy Unit Commander of Narcotics Controls Board, NACOB, Ishak Bakuri, says it will require legislation to empower the board to step in.
In the case of substances like that, it becomes very difficult for the Narcotics Control Board to control. But I would have wished that some provision should be made in that law that will empower Narcotics Control Board to also enforce the abuse of these drugs that we're talking about.
So until the states take the bull by the horn and help address these challenges, the country will continue losing the youth to these substances. My name is Prince Apia, reporting from Kumasi.
Now, edible white clay known in Akan, Ashre, and Ga as Ayelo has cancer-causing agents. That's the outcome of a study by scientists at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. They found levels of lead and other heavy metals more than 3 times the required daily intake for a normal adult human being. Lava Films' Kwesi Debra has more in this report.
I'm at Sharifa Harun's residence at Old Tafo at about 5:30 p.m. as she nibbles on her second pack of white clay. The 26-year-old consumes about 40 grams or averagely a handful of white clay daily. I buy 50 pesos to 1 cedi of white clay every day, she says. After consuming it, I drink water and I'm full and happy. Consumption of clay, especially by children and pregnant women, has been reported in several countries across Africa and other continents. Studies have confirmed the phenomenon in Cameroon, Congo and Nigeria, as well as parts of India, China and Philippines. There are several reports in parts of the Americas. Prevalence on pica
is very difficult to obtain because, one, there are differences in the definition, and two, patients are reluctant to come out. But according to a 2016 report published in the International Journal of Gynecology and Obstetrics, Africa has the most prevalence of 44.8%, followed by South and North America with 23%, and Eurasia with 17.5%.
Nutritional, religious, cultural, and even psychological, among other reasons, have been linked to the habit. Dr. Daniel Fojo is a psychiatrist at the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital.
You can classify pica as an eating disorder, but we define it basically as compulsive eating of things or substances that do not have any nutritional value, or they are not necessarily edible.
A 2013 study indicates 28% of women of reproductive age in Ghana eat averagely 70 grams of clay daily. Benefits of white clay are said to include ability to absorb dietary and bacterial toxins associated with digestive tract disturbance. However, in 2014, researchers in Johannesburg, South Africa, found pregnant women who eat clay are at risk of anemia and other health conditions.
We always say that there isn't actually a really known cause to it, but we have found that a lot of people that have reported it, we find that they have some deficiencies, nutritional deficiencies, and that's what actually motivates them to eat those substances. So deficiencies like iron deficiency, zinc deficiency, they tend to be eaten to supplement that particular deficiency they have.
Dr. Santuan Kansa has been researching into metals in white clay on the market.
Children are the next generation, and women are the bearers of the next generation. So everything that affects women and children is a matter of global importance. And because pregnant women in particular in Ghana, almost of all ages and educational backgrounds, find themselves eating this clay during pregnancy, I thought it was interesting to find out what it contains, and since I'm a chemist, I went to look for the chemicals that might be present.
For the study, she randomly obtained 30 pieces of baked, ready-to-eat white clay samples from 10 markets in Kumasi metropolis.
Now, metals are a group of compounds, to the layman, let me say, some chemicals, and these could be essential or toxic. So we found some essential metals like calcium, potassium, iron, and zinc, which are useful for the body's function and growth.
Toxic metals like lead and arsenic were also detected.
Lead and arsenic are known carcinogens, meaning they have the potential to cause cancer when humans are exposed to it. It doesn't mean everybody who eats the clay will have cancer in their lifetime, but it's been associated with cancer. Yes, the levels of lead and cadmium were above the permitted daily intake. So we assume that every pregnant woman takes 30 grams of clay a day, and with that there's a formula that is used in the calculation. And with reference to the levels we obtained from the clay, factoring in the assumption that every woman takes 30 grams a day, and per their body weight, which are all standards, the levels are quite high and worrying.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Debra.
Now we'll be taking a break to bring you more business news, but there's the story I'd want to share with you. The threat against investigative journalist Manasseh Azuri has drawn a petition from media groups from 15 countries. They have petitioned President Akufo-Addo. So the Media Foundation for West Africa and its partner Press Freedom organizations in 14 other West African countries have jointly petitioned President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to personally intervene in guaranteeing the safety and security of investigative journalist Manasseh Azuri. The petition follows threats received by the journalist in the aftermath of his investigative report about the I Group, a vigilante group aligned to the ruling New Patriotic Party. The petitioners indicated that the recent murder of Ahmed Swale and various acts of violations against journalists that have gone unpunished makes the threats against Manasseh quite serious. The group further said threats on journalists for their work have the potential of intimidating and censoring them, and in fact other journalists from pursuing their rightful journalistic work, adding that such threats also undermine Ghana's reputable press freedom and freedom of expression of environment. And the petition is here, but that petition is at myjoyonline.com, and the names of the organizations involved, there are 15 of them in all. So it has the Media Foundation for West Africa, Asociado dos Jornalistas de Cabo Verde, Cape Verde, International Press Center Nigeria, Association, okay, so that's in Guinea, and then Mauritania, there's Cote d'Ivoire, there's the Gambia, there's Benin, Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau, Togo, Burkina Faso, Liberia, Mali, and my name is Israel. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night.